We are live. It is official. The big red box says so. So, hello, good morning for those of us on the Pacific here coast with Nada. Nada, welcome to our little coffee and contracts chat.
Hey, Lucy, thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. We have so much to cover as always. Thankfully, we're at least halfway through our first cup of coffee to get right into it. Um, First, let's start with a brief introduction. I will not do you justice, but you are this master of so many fascinating things. Tell us the two hats you wear.
Yes, so I am a senior corporate counsel at Franklin Templeton, and in addition, the founder of Contract Nerds, and lots of little hats, being worn on both sides. But I really love being an in-house attorney, and then also being able to create and grow a community for all contracts professionals.
So many things for me to dig into there. As I warned you, and I warn all my special guests, like there's no plan. Just know that there is no agenda and there is no plan. So the topics will flow freely. Let's talk about being in house. That is where my heart lies in terms of where I come from as well. So you senior corporate counsel, you focus on contracts. Tell me what is the scope of the job that you do?
That's right. So at Franklin Templeton, where I've been working for about 6 years, I'm on the buy side. So I
Okay.
support all buy side agreements for the company globally. And that can be anything from SaaS agreements to NDAs to lease agreements,
Yeah.
you name it. We see all different types of contracts.
I
And
used
it
to
keeps me really busy.
I used to say when I was at Microsoft, so I had the same job, and there's a few of us out there. We're like, we're procurement counsel or buying counsel, whatever it was, and that's all I did for so long. I was so ingrained in that. I had a team of 20 people that we had that much buying, of course, happening at Microsoft. But to make it simple, I always used to say, if money's leaving the company, those are the contracts that I and my team have to touch. Very different than revenue generating contracts, as we know, right? And those have different teams. So with that, you get to specialize pretty deeply, which I have a feeling is why you probably had this idea about redlining etiquette. So we didn't even mention that book, which I think was a precursor to why and how contract nerds were born. But tell me what came first. So you have busy full-time job doing deals, right? You're living in the contracts. Tell us about redline and etiquette and how that came to be.
Yeah, so my book, Contract Redlining Etiquette, was sort of born at the same time of Contract Nerds, and I'll
Okay.
explain how. It was summer of 2020. We're all
Mm-hmm.
quarantined, right? And I had a lot more time on my hands than usual. So, of course, I needed to fill up that time. And I was trying out a bunch of different things. I happened to go on LinkedIn, logged in, had been a while, and I saw that lawyers were starting to post really helpful tips on LinkedIn. They were starting to launch their own podcasts. And I thought it was really awesome how legal experts were coming and, teaching us and educating us.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself, what have I been doing for so long that I'm really good at or I'm an expert at that I could then, teach others? And it really was contracts because that's what I've been working with for over 15 years. And so I did my very first post on LinkedIn. It was tip for in-house counsel, always use explanatory comments with your red lines.
Okay.
And so that was the first rule of contract redlining etiquette. And that
Ah,
post, actually, my article, I turned it into an article, and that became one of the first articles I published through Contract Nerds. So it sort of got me into LinkedIn, into
yeah.
the LinkedIn community, and into that creative writing and content creation phase,
Yeah.
where I was like, we redline all the time, but no one ever taught us how to do it. I never learned it in law school. I
Yeah.
learned it from this boss or that counterparty, or I Googled it. And then over a number of years, I finally became my own, like sort of feeling like I had my own rhythm, my own style, and I was really understanding it. And then when I was writing about it, I started to study it. Like, why do we choose to do the red line like this instead of like that? And there was
Yeah.
this huge need for it. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of where both tracks were sort of born at the same time.
Well, there's nothing like when, like purpose and skill aligns and time and resource. I mean, so much of this kind of stuff is also luck and timing with skill. And so it's great to see. It's great to see when that happens. Certainly LinkedIn has completely changed how everybody interacts from on the professional side. I'm not a social media person, never have been, but certainly LinkedIn is like you kind of have to be there depending on, I think, depending on the job you have, maybe, and the work you do. And certainly when you're building a community, that screams LinkedIn. So let's talk a little bit about community. I will say I sometimes feel a little bit old school. I'm like, why are all these jobs called head of community? What is community? What is this job? I'm a very pragmatic doer. Like, there's an output, there's a deliverable, there's an outcome, there's a product, there's a, I'm a throughput kind of worker. I think it's my I think I'm in what's it called, inside a boomer. I'm a boomer inside. I'm a solid Gen Xer, but I'm very envious of the millennial approach to social media. So tell me a little bit about community and what that means for professionals.
I think community is a way to bring us all together. And that could be in several different ways. But even as early as law school, I felt like it was really hard to find my community of in-house counsel, because I knew very early on I wanted to be an in-house lawyer. But at the time, this is 2006 to 2009, law schools were more focused on litigation roles. And there were more professional organizations for litigators. So I felt very sort of alone trying to figure out, how do I get that first in-house job? How do I get an internship that's going to feed me into an in-house job? How do I interview for in-house roles? It's very different from litigation roles. And when they say go network with people that you want to be like, where do I begin? This was even before LinkedIn. So it was like cold calling, it was looking up companies and having to find out, who their in-house counsel were, or asking through word of mouth. It was a lot of pressure. And then as an attorney, as an in-house attorney, a lot of the work we do is independent work. And so we're independent contributors for the most part, and we're down and we're doing our work, like you said. And then we come up for breath when we're like, I have a question. But who should I ask? I don't know. I guess I'll just figure it out myself, or I'll do the best I can, right? And so I really wanted to create a community where it was a space that we could all come together and feel like we just weren't alone. And whether that's feeling together through like our newsletters that we do on Contract Nerds, where we're all getting this like same information, and free resources, or coming together on webinars where we're chatting with each other. And it's wonderful to see how people connect in the chats, or in other ways. Like there's other communities that have chat streams. They have in-person events.
Right.
Just different ways to bring us together. So that's really what I see it. And I think that when you have community, it makes us better at our jobs at working with contracts, because now we're connecting and we're learning from each other instead of just ourselves.
Yeah, there's always such a comfort in the you're not alone, right? And I think as in-house counsel, all you have is you and your immediate peers, but you're all in the same bubble. I think that perspective, like you said, you pick your head up and you're like, has anybody else do this? Is this right? Okay. I remember my first limited liability cap question in a big deal. So I was already at Microsoft a couple of years, and I'd been doing these contracts at a law firm too. But for the first time in-house, I was dealing with this. It was going to be escalated way up to the C-suite, and it was one of our big contracts. And I literally had no answer, and I had to pick a number. I had to come up with something that would make sense. It was some 5x 10 annual life of the contract, all the shenanigans we love to do in those paragraphs, which, by the way, shouldn't be rocket science, but we all pretend every time we see one, it's a new one. It's like, I don't know, I have to do fancy special math for this one. But I remember that feeling of like, I don't know, $5 bazillion, 20 trillion dollars. Like where do you look? So I do love that finally there is this feeling of, like you said, this community of you can ask. And what's nice, and I'm seeing a lot of people being very vulnerable and open with what they either don't know or what information they're seeking. I, for one, love that. There's enough posturing and nonsense that we know happens in the professional legal community, where this, I feel like your community, as well as some of the others I'm seeing, peer communities, people are pretty transparent with them. I don't know, what do you do, and what do you do? So I think that's, kudos to you for realizing that there's a gap there and for filling that gap. We're 10 minutes in, and neither one of us have said AI, so I'm gonna just do it. I had a little bingo card next to me. I'm like, how long does it take? Who's gonna say it first? But it's not fair. It's not a fair. I don't share the rules of the secret game I play. So I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I'm gonna say that we got to talk about AI. We have to know what's happening, and I would love to hear, putting on your two different hats, and answer maybe in two different ways. Tell us, as in-house counsel, what has AI meant to you? What does this explosion mean in your day job? And then shift a little bit and tell me, hey, what are you seeing in the community as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to be honest with you, Lucy. I have not decided on a hard position on AI yet. I am still in my research phase. And I think a lot of people jump very quickly to decide how they feel about AI. Yes. And I would just say, slow down a little bit. There really is no rush. We've all been doing things the way that we've been doing them already. So improvements are great, but it's not the end of the world. Like, just slow down, take a breath, research, test things out yourself. That's what I'm still doing. And so I was on mat leave from like last summer until this March, which was
congratulations. We didn't even touch on your most important project, but we can come back to that. There's a whole life that is also, by the way, happening, and amazing. Yeah. You are superwoman. Let us not ignore that. That is incredible. There's another whole session we need to do on that, but let's get back to the other babies, the contract babies. But yes, amazing.
Yeah, and so I was on mat leave during this explosion of AI, and I was sort of like, whoa, and I was seeing it all come, but I didn't have the bandwidth to jump in, right? And then I went back to work in March, and that's when I was like, okay, it's time to now go in. And I decided the way I was going to do that was I was going to demo 12 different AI review tools.
12.
I wanted it to be a lot of them, because I really wanted to understand the lay of the land directly from the AI providers and the products themselves.
Can I jump in with one word to our listeners? Don't try this at home. I think there are some people that are good at that, and it sounds like you are amazing at it. You've got the appetite, you've got the curiosity, you're carving out time for it. I think we have a lot of other in-house lawyers, most, who aren't maybe naturally as curious and kind of like, okay, well, I have to figure this out, but God, I've got this other full-time job. So I think we're seeing that. We are seeing those who jump in. There are fewer and far between like you, which, again, kudos for that curiosity and the appetite. I think a lot of your community members also might go, should I be looking at 12? And I want to just say, not necessarily. So we're PSA, that's my job. My job is to make sure I can do a public service announcement here and there. But anyway, please keep going.
Good clarification, Lucy. I will say that the reason I looked at that many, it wasn't because I was doing vendor selection only. I was also thinking about it from the content and community standpoint, as a thought leader, to be able to talk about it. That's why my scope was much broader. So, if you're purchasing, you wouldn't need to look at that many. And I will tell you, after having looked at 12, there's not a whole lot of difference in the product offerings.
Amen.
Okay.
Yep.
And I thought that was really interesting.
Mm-hmm. That is important for people to understand. There are a lot of I always call them there's a lot of yellowish apples. They're good. They're golden, delicious. They're gold. There's a whole bunch of different variations of still a good golden yellowy apple. But the nuance difference, most people won't even discover it, I think. Okay, that's great it's always good to hear, validation on the day-to-day on the ground of what you're seeing. Okay.
That's right. And I think that where there are variations, are really where that AI vendor focuses a lot of their time on. Like some are very more focused on drafting contracts from scratch.
Yeah.
Some are more focused on the red line and negotiation support piece.
Mm-hmm.
Some are focused on analytics and being able to tap in to your old contracts and things like that. But I will say 90% of the features and capabilities overlap with one another. Like 90% they all have in common. It's the 10% variance that when you're purchasing to look out for those, you know.
Agreed. And that's from a pure functionality perspective. Obviously, I would say there's a whole other layer of the system kind of selection and assessment when you're there, when you're past the research and you're actually planning a purchase,
right.
Getting under the hood, not of the tech. Too many lawyers are asking questions they're reading online to ask, but don't quite know what to do with the answers. That's okay. Somebody else should help you with that. An IT team, a procurement lead, somebody can help you. But understanding who are the people behind these technology companies, because chances are they're smaller companies. If you're looking at nuanced AI solutions, you're looking at point solutions that were created for a purpose. They're probably smaller, they're probably younger, they're probably people that you can get to pretty high level, leaders in the company to understand who are you, what's your background, what's your plan, why are you doing this? And I'm just going to say there's a lot of money being thrown around, which is causing some not great behaviors. So understanding the people behind the tech, hate to be old and boring, it's going to come down to the people, not just the sales process, by the way. That better be delightful. And if you have any icky feelings during the sales process, that's a problem. Don't ignore that feeling. Okay. Sales process should be delightful. Implementation and post-implementation support. So I would just say to round out the comments that you're making, which are so spot on, there's so little drastic variation that these other things become that much more critical. These, let's call them soft services. They're not, but anyway, I just have to, it's such a soapbox point. I'm like, oh my God, the people.
I literally, Lucy, was about to say that next. Like, you are so right. How, like, the way that I've selected to do like a more in-depth trial with. Okay. The way that I selected was through people and customer support post purchase. With these AI standalone contract review tools, they're all word add-ins. So in terms of tech implementation, it's zero. That's, I think, what's really great about it. Zero implementation, $0 for implementation, zero time for implementation. It's a word add-in that appears in your Word app, and then you just go in and you add it in, right? But there is work to be done.
That's not the hard part.
Right. There's workflow. There's designing of the playbooks. There's making sure that the AI understands the playbook and adapting the rules. And what I found that there are some that offer white glove service where they continue to support you after purchase and they help you build your playbooks. Yeah. I thought that was a really key differentiator, so that you didn't have to do it yourself, feel all by yourself again, doing it and being like, does the AI get it? How come this is what my playbook says, but the AI said this? What am I missing? So they actually come and help you set up for free a select number of playbooks. And I think that's really wonderful. It's the best training that you could offer. And it's the best way to make sure that your users are using your tool correctly, which is really important. Yeah. There were many others who did not offer that type of support, who said, oh, we could probably charge for that. And I thought, that's going to be a barrier. If you want people coming in and using your tool and it's in Word and it's so easy and you don't even need to well, like, make it easy for them to learn how to use it too.
100%. I think you hit on another really important point. Implementation is automatic. That's amazing. I'm sure that's all over their websites. Instant, go live in 47 seconds, whatever. You're like, that means nothing. That means nothing. You know how many add-ins and tools and things I have in my Word and my Outlook and everything. I'm like, oh, that looks good. I'm going to add you in. I don't know what to, okay, never mind. Consumption is the key, right? Who is actually using, how much, how often, what is the actual usage? Because as I was alluding to before, with all the money that's been flown into this, meaning VC money, right? Or PE funding, like, what's it called, investments that are being made in these systems is causing some, a lot of race to revenue, a lot of push to sales, but the actual consumption, the renewals, like how many customers do you have a year after is what I like to ask. I want to know, what are the percentage of actual number of users? Did that go up? Is that what they paid for? Is it way lower than expected? Oh, and by the way, do you credit them for that year over year when the number of users doesn't reach the right level? So those are the questions that I'm afraid aren't being asked by buyers who aren't as savvy as you. And again, I'm going to put you in a minority group. I'm going to put you in a little subset, which is the reality of the buyer community. And thanks to communities like yours, these are questions that people can share, quite transparently with each other, because we aren't trained to buy tech. We're hardly trained to do contracts. Let's be clear. We're actually, as you started, we are not trained to even do our day job. And now we're supposed to become AI purchasing experts. And I think you're just making some really, really important points. So people matter. Let's just make sure everybody remembers that. Great.
Yes, people absolutely matter. Actually, it's funny, Lucy, I'll tell you a story. I had one product that I really liked, and I wanted to move forward with them into trial. And I gave them my timeline, and I said, to all of them, I was picking 3, and to all 3, I said, this is my timeline of wanting to try, I want to start here, I want to end here. I had a test scenario that I wanted to use, and how does that sound to you? And one of them came back and said, yeah, that's totally fine. And then a week later, they came back and said, actually, a lot of us are at this conference. We are really busy. We don't think we can do it at this timeline. We can probably do it in 2 months. And so they sort of changed their tune. And that is why instead of 3, I ended up going with 2, because I dropped them. They weren't. And that's, I think, like, also be ready, AI vendors, be ready. If you're going to be, marketing your tool, you need to be ready for customers to come and test it. And I think that's the best way to know when they're saying 95% accuracy or no implementation needed, or we have playbooks ready for you. You don't even have to create them, is test before you buy, not after. And most of them are open to doing these little test cases with you, where you can actually customize a playbook. So I started with like an NDA template, and I gave it to them, and I said, show me how you create a playbook live for me. And they were showing me, and it would take a few minutes, and it was great, but there were nuances. So when we ran it against an example third-party NDA, we started to see, the rule thought this meant that. So now we need to go edit it in the system.
That's right.
So there's an art to programming the playbook. I see the playbook as like one giant prompt.
That's
right.
Exactly right.
Like a giant 20-page prompt, let's say, if it's like a long playbook.
Yep.
And the way you write it and the way you instruct the AI to read it impacts their output.
Yeah, and it isn't natural. This whole natural language and blah, blah, that's great for chat. Hey, what's the find my limited liability provision? Like, sure, it should be good enough at that. It better be good enough at the basics, right?
Yeah.
But what you're talking about, this is nuanced stuff. Yeah. And it isn't. I think what happens is things get kind of so simplified, certainly during the sales process and during marketing. And then, and then you upload your playbook, and then it does the ABC, and you're like, wow, in those innocent 2 sentences, there is so much nuance and what can go wrong, and what is completely mind-boggling to your. Let's say the regular corporate lawyer. Let's put somebody in the middle of the road of where maybe you are, which I'm going to say you're on the savvy, curious side, which is incredible. And then the other side, which is the whole resisting, and I'm going to just let AI pass by, and I'm going to do my job, which that won't work either. But somewhere in the middle, there's I'm going to get it, but I don't understand why it isn't doing what I'm doing. And that angst and time it takes to figure it out, that's when you want to know you pick the right partner. They're going to answer your questions. They're going to hop on a call. They're going to walk you through it. You're going to share your screen. It's going to be hands-on. And it isn't what you pay for and what you don't. Oh, and that service isn't included. When you buy a fancy car and you're paying a lot, they're going to do a little walkthrough. Hey, let me show you how to turn this thing on. This might be new for you. We used to do this. We don't do that anymore in cars. It's like that, but even, of course, more complicated. So We've got some questions also coming in We got some questions coming in on LinkedIn. What we'll do is we'll follow up with those and we'll chat and respond to those in posts and comments later because of the speed at which we have 5 minutes left. And I also don't want to put Nat on the spot on some things, although I'm happy to also talk about AI retention agreements. There's a question about protecting your organization. So that's another hat I think, Nat, probably you're wearing is now, okay, never mind how I use AI and how I need AI and what I'm going to figure out with AI. Never mind my community that is also struggling with AI and how do I facilitate their conversations about AI. But I probably have to come up with some opinion, or at least, you know what, your GC is certainly under some pressure to probably come up with policies around how does a company use AI. So we've got layers as lawyers, and I don't need any answers. And I know we only have 5 minutes, and this is like a 5-hour webinar on just that alone. But what are you seeing on that regard too? Again, in the community, forget using AI to do our corporate counsel day jobs. What about policy and setting the standard and having answers for the whole company that's going, the marketing team wants to use AI, the IT team wants to use AI, the finance team everybody wants to use AI. And somehow the lawyers are always in the middle of, okay, I got to figure out how to use it. I got to figure out how you're allowed to use it. And then I got to negotiate a completely new set of terms in a contract that I've never seen before, a year ago. So give us a couple thoughts on that before we have to close out, because I know we have another 10 hours worth of topics to cover.
So when you're on the customer side, these AI agreements are going to vary so much. I think it's going to take a lot of time to have a solid AI policy. But a lot of folks in the community are starting with building an AI policy, which I can tell is something that needs to be fluid. Like, it's not something that you're going to create today and then you don't have to look at it again for another 5 years. If you're going to start with an AI policy today, you probably need to have a monthly review of it, because tech is changing so quickly. Standards are changing so quickly. Last year, it was like, no tech, no AI.
Right.
And you're not allowed to use AI, right? And now it's like, wait a minute, but we want to use AI, so we should probably let them use AI. But what kind of AI? How much AI? For what? What are the risks, right? And those are the nuanced questions. And then I think it comes down to also updating your template. So I'm seeing AI vendors who, not AI contract review vendors, because they all know their customers are lawyers. General AI vendors or tech vendors.
Amazing with AI right now, right? It is like automating all the things. You got agents selling to agents to selling to agents. Marketing is a perfect example. Every company has a marketing department.
That's right. But their agreements don't even mention AI once. So they're selling AI and their contracts don't mention AI. Now that's going to lengthen the negotiation process, because now your customer is adding terms about your product. Worried. Why didn't you add it now? I'm worried. What about AI are you not telling me? And now we're going to go extra conservative, and it's going to be a lot of back and forth. Whereas, like, I really see the tech vendors as perfect spot for being a leader in this space in your agreements too, not just your product. Talk about your AI in your agreements and lead the way for what should be standard and what customers should expect.
Right, which is a whole other, standardizing contract terms. We've been struggling with that for 8,000 years. Now we've got another whole twist, like with the EU model clauses and all the standard terms. It just feels like it just keeps coming back, the same challenge of standardizing on the latest and greatest terms. And there's a lag, and that's just the reality. And we're all struggling with it. If people are a little bit more transparent about it, it can all go so much faster. Can we not hide the ball? Can we not pretend? We're all trying to figure it out at the same time. We went through all this with data security. The transition to the cloud, if I may do 10 seconds on that, I was at a little company called Microsoft that had something to do with the shift to the cloud. You will not believe the exhausting conversations with lawyers inside of regular enterprises, lawyers inside of law departments that are trying to buy their own, law firms. I don't know about the cloud. Where do you store your contracts today? Well, we've got them in a file storage room down the hall. Are you kidding me? And that is safer with Susie and the key, and the only one that has the key is Susie, who knows the color-coded file system, is better than moving to the cloud. And I just feel like we're having a similar aha revelation that has to happen, where accept AI. It is there. It is there if you know it, and if you don't, it is there whether you protect it in your contract or if you don't. Because what's a contract? It's like a speed limit sign on a freeway. And people zip right past 55, 60, 70, but it's there. So unless you have a cop and you have a way to ticket them and jail them, just know it's happening. Just know they're speeding. To just know that AI is there. I think that is probably the safest approach. And we're right at time. I didn't even let you get your. Give me 30-second conclusion on contracts or community or AI or anything else you want to close with. And everybody go visit Contract Nerds, of course. But go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, I'm so excited. We have our 5-year anniversary of Contract Nerds coming up in August. So please come join us, contractnerds.com, for webinars. We have resources. We have a couple playbook templates as well available for free. And I think I'll be posting soon about my AI review tool purchase process. So
beautiful.
Stay tuned for that. And thank you so much, Lucy. This is a great program and you're so knowledgeable and I learn so much from you every time.
Oh, thank you so much. It's my pleasure. And again, this is unsponsored, unfiltered, unplanned. So I appreciate you being a part of the journey and the experiment. And we're going to keep doing this. I think I'm going to have you back for another Friday chat. Everybody have a great weekend. Thank you so much. Thanks, Nada. We'll talk soon, everybody.